Fonseca. Welcome.
Hello, Madam Chairwoman, how are you?
Very good, nice to see you.
Thank you, you too. I'm just glad that my parents don't know I'm here, because my mom would be watching online and she would text me and know that I didn't go to church today. So, it's all good. It'll be our little secret, all right? I'm not going to church today.
I have a birthday in June.
Yeah, I don't want it to be on there tomorrow too. But, good evening. I'm Tony Fonseca. I'm the co-owner of Packaging and More. We're located in Central Falls. We are a food packaging distribution company in our 26th year. My brother and I are the second generation owners of our family business. I'm a board member of the Rhode Island Hospitality Association, the Rhode Island Food Dealers Association, and at Hope and Maine, the food incubator in Warren. I want to first thank the governor's office for allowing me to be part of the Tackling Plastics Task Force, as some people have alluded to this evening. It was a diverse crowd. I have many customers in the state, in the restaurant, grocery, bakery, hospitality industry, and I was able to take a lot of their viewpoints and concerns and bring those to our meetings. We really ended up in the weeds on this discussion, and I want to try to talk about parts of this that people have not talked about. I tried not to be on the legislative working group. I was asked then to serve on the legislative working group, and we spent nearly all of our time talking about a plastic bag bill and what that would look like. The moment I was asked to serve on this committee, I knew that the governor's office, and the governor in particular, wanted a bill like this to pass. And I went into this committee with my eyes wide open, knowing that I would be asked to compromise my previous position of opposition to these bills. And I thank the governor for including me in the conversation, and I went in there with 2 bullet points that were of concern to me and the customers that I represent. The first is I wanted a fee of some sort, and the iteration of that fee and the interests of my customers, and essentially the business community, the food and hospitality industry, were mostly reflected in the way the language of Bill 410 reads in relationship to the fee. I was indifferent to if it was 5 cents or 10 cents, but I wanted that money to stay with the retailer to help offset costs of not only the paper bag versus the plastic bag, but also infrastructure in the front of stores. If you walk into a grocery store and you're in line 4 or 5 deep, every store has their own methodology for how they get you through the register. And multiple customers of mine have already had to pay thousands of dollars to redo each register. So it was important for me that the retailers would keep some of that fee. I also did not want an opt-out for that fee at all. So a giant retailer could to say, we're going to take this financial increase and just pass it on to the consumer, just sort of bury it. And I was not for that. I wanted it to be there to change consumer behavior. In relationship to the fee, also, we've talked a lot, I've heard a lot today that this bill is not as strong as some of the cities and towns bill, and I vehemently disagree with that because of this fee. The cities and towns, the way I read Article 13 of the Rhode Island Constitution, and I don't recommend anybody read past that because it's not the best read, cities and towns don't have the ability to put this fee, and this fee is what actually changes behavior. I've been opposed to this legislation because we're just closing one door and opening another. That's been my biggest issue. And there's no way that you can convince me environmentally that trading every plastic bag for a paper bag really moves the needle one way or the other. By having a fee, as John alluded to earlier, it actually puts the choice in the hands of the consumer and allows them to decide what culpability they want in this process. So fears of mine that include my transportation and logistics issues, my warehouse space, all those concerns I've had in the past, I know will be mitigated somewhat by there being a fee. So I hope that that's clear, because part of what's very important to me is that if I'm coming in with a previous known position on a bill and I'm changing that position, I want people A, to know that I was included as part of the process, but B, I'm giving sound rationale to why I was opposed to it before and why I've changed my opinion now. The second thing that I asked for in the bill was uniformity. I don't know that there can be a but when we talk about the business community and running a multiple location operation within the state of Rhode Island. We're not talking about Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Connecticut, we're talking just about Rhode Island. And I think that cities and towns should not be in the business of regulating what rules businesses have to live by. They're regulated, their retail license, their license to operate is issued by the state of Rhode Island. Anything that's an impediment to business should be of the utmost concern to the legislature, and we need to be on top of that as a statewide issue. I appreciate the governor's comment, in particular on Valentine's Day, when she made that clear in to our group in our final meeting. I want to be clear on one other point. In reference to 410, I'm in favor. In reference to 268, I am opposed, and I want to detail why. There are 4 bullet points in 410 that are different than 268 and of concern to me. One is that 268 has language that you may collect up to 25 cents per paper bag, and that's too ambiguous. Again, going back to the fee that we have in 410. There is no specific reusable bag provision in 268, and there is specific language in 410. The same goes for paper bags. And 268 actually gives municipalities an opt-out, whereas 410 does not. And so I think all 4 of those things address my 2 main concerns in the bill, and that's why I'm in favor of 410 and not 268. And just to further reiterate to this committee how much time we took to spend on this language, if you read the governor's 30-page PDF, our final report, the word plastic bag or bags are mentioned 41 times, reusable bags are mentioned 27 times, polystyrene was only mentioned 5 times, foam was mentioned once, and styrofoam was mentioned 0 times. And I think that's important for this committee to know, because we got started on a topic and we focused on a single issue when it came to legislative topics. We did spend some time talking on straws, but we did spend some time talking about styrofoam, but this is like the first 30 minutes of the first meeting and just trying to figure out what we should focus on. So one thing I also want to make sure that I have on the record, my company does distribute paper bags and plastic bags and reusable bags. So that hasn't changed in the past, but I just wanted to be clear for anyone who might not have heard me testify before.
Thank you very much for your testimony and for your participation in the Governor's Task Force Commission. It's very helpful, because in the past you've come in, as you said, in opposition to all these bills, and now it's a big change, but with caveats.
Well, I hope I'm not asking to change any language in 410, because we spent our time talking about it. And so, this is compromise. This is the way compromise looks to me. So.
I appreciate it, because you're in the industry, and that's important, your participation. Any questions? Senator Conlon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I admit, when I saw Tony sitting out there, I was wondering what side of the issue he's going to present this evening. So I want to join you in thanking him for, and others as well, and many others here tonight who participated on that commission and has essentially generated this legislation. For those of us that have been on the committee since this bill, or version of this bill, has been coming to us every year. And Tony's been one of the most articulate and cogent witnesses in opposition to the bill every year. And a lot of his testimony is very compelling when you look at it through the eyes of the businesses and how it impacts them. And for those of us who have wanted to get here, trying to figure out how to address those concerns in a way that would allow us to get here and find that medium point in has been a real challenge to us. And we spent some time yesterday on the floor discussing how important it is to have leadership that can build bridges to create that communication. And this is one of those issues that has been a dividing line and where it's been very difficult to get that conversation going. And so, what I'm saying is that I think this is very illustrative of what we discussed on the Senate floor yesterday about how important it is in the area, environmental issues, to have important conversations between environmental stakeholders and businesses. And the only way we get to compromise, to effective compromise, is by having leadership that knows how to create the venue and the forum for those kinds of conversations. And I think that testimony to that is here today. Tony's been one of the most strenuous objectors, but not just on an opinion basis. He's always presented facts to us, always had an explanation for the basis of his opposition. Again, it's important to me that process works. And sometimes the process takes more than 1 year, sometimes the process takes more than one committee hearing, but it's important that process works. And I think what we're hearing today is also representative of that the committee process can work. And so I want to thank all of you here who participated in that committee, all of you who have worked on the bill, and thanks for coming back and changing your mind. It's not easy, but when you get to a point where a compromise process can work for both sides, it's great to have that testimony for this committee. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I don't know that my mind changed as much as the legislative process, which is different in the sense that I'm not coming to rebut something that's already been placed in front of me. I'm working to draft something with others that has give and take, and that's a big difference. I mean, the businesses that I represent are signing on to say we're going to pay more money, and we're going to spend more money to implement this, at the trade-off being we're getting certainty, we're getting uniformity, and so that's a trade. But if I'm an operator and I have 4 different locations, that's a trade that I personally would be willing to make, and most of my customers have come to see that viewpoint. It still costs money, but there's we're trying to find the best way. There's no perfect way. We're trying to find the best way.
And Madam Chair, if I may, you're right. Characterizing as a change of mind was not really fair or accurate. And you're right. But what I meant to say is thank you for being able to come in, work on an issue that you felt very passionate about, and able to find that compromise point.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Connell.